Well, good afternoon, boys and girls, and welcome back to another episode of Trap Lines and Inlines. Another day of working on my off-the-grid homestead in the Canadian wilderness here. Yep, that's right, we're up in the bush here today, fellas. We're going to be taking a break from the off-grid cabin build for a while here, and we're going to be starting a series here on the chicken coop build. Now, I'm going to be building a chicken coop out here. I got eyes of brown pullets at home that are growing up extremely fast, and we got to get them moved out so I can look after them up here. This is going to be a very simple and cost-effective build that I truly believe anyone can do, and we'll divide it into a few specific sections. Now, chickens are a huge asset to off-the-grid lifestyle. It's a constant food source. Having eggs on demand just in my backyard here. You know, it's also a fun little hobby. I love having chickens. They're awesome to have, and you know, they're gonna lay a lot more than I can eat, so it'll be a nice little side income as well. So this chicken coop will be 8 foot by 12 foot, so within 100 square feet. The reason for it's not any bigger is because anything over 100 square foot, and I'd have to get a building permit there. So it'll have windows, a door. It'll be fully insulated and vapor barriered because we are in the remote north here. It does get damn cold in the winter, and minus 50 degrees Celsius becomes all too common. I've drawn up a plan of how things are going together. I'm really happy with the plan I have. I think it's going to turn out pretty darn good. My goal for this build is that anyone who watches this build, I'm going to go into pretty good detail here, so my goal for this is that anyone that watches this build series will be able to build this exact same chicken coop. Let's show you around the build site here. So we are in the bush, so there's not a whole lot of areas that we can actually put it without doing a whole bunch of clearing. So I'm going to put the chicken coop right about here. And it's going to be 12 wide, and we'll span this distance right about here. And then you see I got a bit of a clearing here where my truck is and everything, where I'm going to put the run for the chickens so they can go outside and graze and whatnot there. And we'll do an episode on that as well. I got some building materials drug out. I got some 12 footers, 8 footers stud length, 92 and 5/8 inchers. Standard plywood, OSB, my generator. We're going to be putting the chicken coop on skids, so it's portable, and we'll be leveling that all off. Got a couple foundation blocks left over, all my nails and stuff, and all the wood will be cut with just a generator here because we don't have access to power, of course, and just your very basic skill saw. In relation to the cabin, you can see the cabin's just down there, and then so it'll be nice because off my front deck I'll be able to see the chickens, I'll be able to hear the chickens if there's anything going on, and yet it's not so close that me and the dog are always smelling like chickens, eh? So we're gonna have to build her sturdy, that's for sure. The run is the part I'm the most worried about. It's gonna have to be bear proof, wolf proof, everything, right? Because we got everything out here, every predator you can name. So yeah, in this particular episode, we are going to be building the floor and the skids for the chicken coop. We're going to be insulating the floor, laying plywood on both sides of the floor, and vapor burying it as well. So let's quit the yapping and get right to it. Thanks for watching, guys. Okay, so for our floor framing, we're going to need 2 pieces, 2 2x4s at exactly 12 feet. And 12 at exactly 93 inches. So we'll measure them out here. You see I had to buy true 8-foot boards instead of just stud length boards to do this bit. Now, I don't have sawhorses. I usually just cut on the ground, but she's pretty woolly around here, so I'm just going to use my tailgate as a sawhorse and cut them right off my tailgate. So stay tuned. Okay, we'll start our framing here by joining our corners together. And so this is the 8-foot or the 93-inch piece here, and it's connecting to the 12-foot slice here. And it's a bit awkward working right on the ground here, but we'll line it up. We want this line nice and flush and this line nice and flush. Save you a lot of hassle later on. And the reason I'm using nails, there's two reasons. One, because they're quite a bit cheaper than screws. I do not have a nail gun. And because with screws, I gotta listen to the generator all day, which means I'm not listening for bears, which is a big problem because I gotta be charging the batteries on the drill. So I really like using nails instead. Okay, you can see here now I've got the entire perimeter of the frame here now, and you see how nice these corners are. I put 3 nails per stud. Likely overkill, you'd probably be fine with 2, and these are 3-inch spiral framing nails. One very important thing, it's crucial that you pick boards that are straight when you're doing the outline, or any framing at all really, but especially crucial on the outside because this is essentially the base for your entire structure. Now I blocked this up a little bit to make it a little easier to work on, but I'm dealing with all sorts of shrubbery and whatnot, so it's a little woolly there, no doubt. So now we're gonna make all our measurements for the studs, for where we're gonna place the studs, so stay tuned. Okay, hard to see. We're gonna place studs at 2 inches, 15 1/4, 31 1/4, 47 1/4, 63 1/4, 79 1/4, 95 1/4, 11 1/4, 127 1/4, and 140 1/2 inches. So we're gonna line those on center. These studs are gonna be 16 inches apart, but we'll start off and we'll mark at 2 inches, and you'll see why in a second. Now, our next one is 15 1/4, and this one is shorter. This one is shorter because that way my plywood sheets, I've designed the framing so that it'll fit exactly 3 plywood sheets, and they will all line up to the center of each stud. And you'll see what I mean more directly as we progress here. But so we'll go 15 1/4 and then 16 inches off each stud. 31 1/4, 47 1/4, and we're just gonna go around with those exact measurements on each side of the head. So we're measuring from the outside of the board, so to be on center, we make our mark here, and then we'll take our speed square and draw a nice line here, and then we'll run the outside of our next stud to that line, eh? So we'll show you all that in better detail here right away. Okay, pardon all the grass and whatnot, but this is what I mean. We're lining the outside edge up to the mark. That way it's 2 inches on center. If your studs aren't going in right, Mint, if they are taking excessive force or there's a significant gap, you've done something wrong. So the reason for this 1/2 inch gap is because these boards are 1.5 inches on the skinny side, 3.5 inches here, okay? So now this entire surface from here to here, 1.5 plus 1.5, 3.5 inches is the exact same distance as here. So now when we place our wall up on this side, it's gonna sit right perfectly flat on there, and it's gonna be really nice and sturdy rather than just balancing on one stud. Now we don't need to do these for these long ones because the wall will be supported by each independent stud, or joist in this case, to hold it nice and sturdy. Okay, so the reason this isn't a full 16 inches, full 16 inches on the center here, is because I wanted to cut this one down so that the outside of this stud would be at 47 1/4 inches. Why might you ask? Because now the center of this 1.5 inch board is precisely at 48 inches. So I can run 1 full sheet of plywood and it will line up right to the center of this stud. And the exact same thing, it'll be symmetrical on this side, so I can fit 1, 2, 3 sheets of plywood without having to do any cutting. Okay, there you have it. There's a quick and easy floor frame. Put up in like 15 minutes. Didn't take long at all, boys. Okay, so it's you can obviously use 2x6s or whatever for your floor joists as well. I'm using 2x4s for the main reason that I don't have the money to be thrown away at 2x6s, and 2, because these are chickens. They're not heavy animals whatsoever. But we'll examine our frame here once we're done, make sure we have no uneven gaps. You can see how they're all pushed up here nice. Right, perfect, hey? And if you had to force any boards in, this board is gonna be crooked on your outsides. It's gonna be warped. But luckily we're perfectly straight here because we took the time to make our cuts proper there. Old wolf dog here, he's kind of abandoning bear duty. She's a scorcher out today, isn't it, my boy? That's a good boy. Okay, now it's time to sheet the structure here with some, we're gonna be using 3/8 OSB plywood. Now, this is for the bottom of the floor to keep the insulation from falling through the floor. It's plenty sufficient, being 3/8 inches. So we'll get our sheet lined up here. Okay, it's very important that we line our edges up as best as we can to the outsides of the frame here. Standard nail spacing is 6 inches apart on your outside on the perimeter of your sheet, and then 12 inches on your secondary supports, which are your studs in the middle of the sheet there. So I tend to put more than that into the sheet. I pepper in there pretty good, honestly. You can see these sheets, they've been out in the elements here at bush camp, so they are a little dirty, but that's perfectly fine, of course. Okay, without any form of nailing line or anything to attach your secondary supports for your sheets, you have to look where your stud is, see? It's really not that hard when you're doing such a small structure like this. You can start on one side, you can see where you've nailed that stud, you can just work your way down, and you'll feel if you're in it or not. And it's really no problem. I don't mind not having the alignment lines at all. It just makes so much sense on this 8x12 structure to run 3 vertical sheets. It just works out perfect. And then once you get to about the middle, see, that one didn't go in. You can kind of just look here and figure it out again. You miss a nail, it's no big deal. And then once you get to the middle, you can look at where your stud is on the other side, and then you got that alignment point as well. And it's really, really easy to do, actually. And you can see what I mean here. You see this sheet is coming to exactly half the distance of this stud, eh? I don't know how well this camera's picking it up, but it's consistent all the way down. So you have 3/4 inches on either side to nail this sheet in, and then the other sheet in, and it's very sturdy that way. Yeah, so what I've done here now is I've got all my sheets laid out. They're looking pretty rough. They've seen some dirt and whatnot, but they're still perfectly mint. Okay, now we're gonna build and we're gonna cut and install skids. I already got one done here. These are 10-foot skids on an 8-foot length here, and we'll overlap them a foot each side. So we'll show you how we're doing this here. Go to my pile. I'm going to be putting 4, see how bad that is? Garbage. I'm going to be putting 4 of these on here, and I bought 5 by accident. Looks like one's garbage, so maybe it's a good thing. So we'll layer out here. Grab my pencil and marking tape. So we're going to overlap these a foot on either side. So we'll mark a foot and I'll line this up so they're all consistent. I'll line this up with the edge when we install them. And then we need to cut our 45, or I like to cut my skids at a 45-degree angle. So you see we got our speed square here, our pivot right at the corner, and we'll line this up, the edge up to 45 degrees. You see that right there? If I can hold it steady. And then we'll mark that and cut. And because my saw blade is not thick enough to cut through this in one go, I have to cut it from both sides, which means I have to mark from both sides, which kind of sucks, but whatever. There you go, awesome. So we'll do the same for both sides and then cut them. Okay, now it's in time to install our skids. Put one skid on each edge of the structure. So we got to start by lining up that edge, lining up that line we put, and I really shouldn't have put it on the bottom, but it still works, no problem. There we go. And obviously it don't have to be perfect for these here skids. You just want to make sure she's pretty damn good enough, buddy. Get it lined up with her edges nice though, so she pulls straight if we ever do have to move the structure. Hey, that's looking pretty damn good. So these are 5-inch spikes, pretty significant, and they should get good penetration into the stud. So that's I'm kind of just using what I got here, and yeah, we'll give her. We don't want to hit this one too hard or we'll knock her out of alignment. We'll just tack in the other end here. Get it going straight too. There, that's looking pretty damn good. We'll put 2 in each edge. Oh shit. Sorry, you're shaking there pretty good. And you fell right over. Anyway, you still see me all right there, fellas. Sorry about that minor inconvenience. Not to worry. And then I guess you can kind of just put them how far apart you want at your discretion. Okay, this is not working out. But if you put them too close together, you're gonna sacrifice your stud. You're gonna split the damn thing, eh? So I'll leave it to your discretion. I've kind of just been staggering them along and really don't need them all that too close together. So we'll get these outside ones nailed in and then show you what we're doing on the inside ones. Okay, you see, because we have 2 boards on the bottom, on the other side, like on the frame there, we can nail both the edges, which is awesome. So we won't be able to do that on the middle ones, and we'll show you them in a second. Okay, 1 skid left. I'll show you how I'm doing these middle ones. So there is 1, 2, and then the 3rd stud, which is right where our plywood pieces intersect, is where I'm putting these 2 center skids. And that way, they will all be the same distance apart from each other. I got a thing for things being symmetrical, man. So it's gonna be pretty damn good. I kind of just, you see, like, you look at this, it's not even straight, but you can see where I've nailed this here is pretty well right on the center of that board, of that stud, or pretty close enough anyway. So I line this up to the middle of this skid, and then I give myself my foot of overlap, and then I nail right down the center. And of course, before I do that, I line this one up too and nail right down the center. Now I've nailed these about a foot apart. You can split that stud pretty quick with these big nails, and they're good and strong, so you don't have to put them in too often of you don't have to put them in too often, eh? So we'll do the exact same thing on the next one, and then we're gonna have to flip this darn thing over, boys. Fuck, is it gonna be a workout, but we'll see if we can't get it hooked anyways. Okay, stay tuned. Okay, this is looking pretty damn good, apart from the filthy old plywood there, and my standard plywood for the other side's pretty rough too. But okay, now we gotta flip it over, because this is the underside, of course. Flip it over and level it. It's getting late in the day here at bush camp. I didn't get out till late. Only got maybe 2.5 hours into this here so far. Wish me luck flipping this over, boys. She's gonna be one fucking endeavor. Well, good morning, boys and girls. Back at it, working on the chicken coop. It's about 5 o'clock in the morning. Been up nearly an hour here now. I usually don't get up quite this early, but woke up to a bear on the doorstep of the cab and was making a bit of a ruckus there, trotting around my deck. Didn't know what it was, but the dog told me what it was anyway. Things you see at bush camp. Anyway, fearless little buggers, so we got to get back at this here cabin build and this chicken coop build, and gotta get this thing flipped over so we can work on the other side of it. Now it's pretty darn heavy, so probably gonna have to use the jack to tip it over. It's gonna be quite a process, but gotta get her flipped over here, boys. Me and Wolf Dog here. Stay tuned. Well, I can guarantee you've never seen much like this before in your life. Oh, she's a lot heavier than the last time I did something like this with the cabin here, eh? Jeez, Murphy. Yeah, so I used these ones to get her started. I used Jack to get her started, and then these ones. And now I got the ones on the end there. They're actually airborne now. I can winch it right over at this point. Problem is, if I winch it over, it's gonna absolutely ruin this stuff here. Or not, rather, this stuff is gonna just crack her wide open. So we don't want that. So we gotta find a way to lower her down here responsibly. What a redneck clusterfuck. But if it's stupid and it works, is it really that stupid, boys? Okay, now I've got it lifted past halfway, so I'm working at letting it down easy. Now you have to be very careful, but you just can't push this board out and let her down. You gotta make sure you let her down evenly too, or you'll bend and twist her. Just kinda. We'll get her down one day here. Okay, just had a pretty damn close call there, to be honest, boys. I had that board and they got on too great of an angle on me, and the one just let out and nearly collapsed me underneath her there. But luckily it wasn't terribly high when I let it down, and it went down no problem, no damage, so it wasn't high enough up yet to cause damage on the fall. So we got lucky, boys. And thank fuck I didn't get under. But glad I made her through that, boys. I think I'm gonna have a little bit of a break here. Maybe go for my 8th cup of bush coffee here. The reason I went through all this trouble is because when you put it down on the ground, you got essentially no space to put on your underside plywood. Now it just becomes a massive job to put plywood underneath that. And then when you attach the skids, if you put the skids underneath and attach them from the bottom, you never get them on there just perfectly right. So it is actually easier doing it that way, in my opinion. I'm sure there's little steps and nifty tricks I could have used to save me a bit of time, but if you have a buddy, 2 guys, you can tip that over no problem, no problem. But just me and the dog here had to use a little bit of redneck engineering there and ingenuity there. So yeah, so now we'll have to drag this the skids back here, put it in place where we want the structure to be, and then we're gonna start leveling the structure while it's still light here. Insulation, vapor barrier, and we're gonna standard plywood, and we're gonna stay in the plywood. It's just gonna be deadly, so stick around there, fellers. Oh, I just missed it. Planes from the army base are flying over. Pretty cool, but they're flying pretty fucking low, man. Like I could see the pilot there when he pitched over. Okay, just working on leveling everything off here. I'm using strictly rocks here to level the structure here, and I start with the corners and get them good and level. You can see these ones. That one's pretty damn good. And if you and I'm using rocks, so you find the right size rocks and you lift it and lower it, and you got actually a little more adjustment there than you might think. And then I've got all this back leveled off here now, but you do your corners, make sure they're good. And then your center skids are gonna sag with the weight of the structure. So you got to prop them up just a touch too. So I like to do all the corners and then work on the center of it. You can see this whole structure, the front half of it needs to come up just a bit, and more so on this side. This side needs to come up quite a bit more, and it's sagging pretty good here. So we'll just keep working away. It's extremely straightforward, and it takes a little time doing it with rocks, but you can save a lot of money. But if you have foundation blocks, a little bit easier that way. Okay, I also used up my 2 adjustable foundation blocks there on these 2 center ones. I really wanted to put it over there, but I got a thing for the shit being symmetrical, eh? These are really handy and nice. You see they're fully adjustable there, but they're expensive, eh? I got a whole video on that. I think it's episode 5 or 6 or something of the off-grid cabin build if you want to take a closer look at them. But they're extremely straightforward. Not hard to figure out at all. So we got all the corners and all the skids are leveled right now. So the whole cabin right now, the whole chicken coop is sitting perfectly level. You can see how I've got it propped up here. Now, it's perfectly level, but it's not near sturdy enough. We're gonna have to add quite a few more rocks. Okay, make sure you're just so meticulous with this, because every little mistake is gonna come back and bite you in the ass. You see, I've got every ounce of this here perfectly level, perfectly level. Take the time to do it now, because this is the easiest time to do it while your structure is nice and light. Releveling is not fun, trust me. I know what you're thinking, it's just a chicken coop. It doesn't have to be perfectly level. Well, maybe so, but when we're putting these walls up and doing all that stuff, framing the walls, putting them up, doing the roof, all that stuff, all those little mistakes, if you got an unlevel floor you're working on, they're gonna come back and bite you in the ass, let me tell you. And then you're left trying to level a much heavier structure, and it just becomes a royal pain in the ass. So now is the time to do it, and just take the time. I've only spent maybe half an hour here, and we're on pretty damn unlevel ground, and we got her perfectly level. But anyways, now we're gonna start putting rocks all the way around the structure and really build up the foundation. Well, I looted some rock piles. Those are some pretty big rocks, but those ones should be big enough. I can likely get them under this front and side piece there. That's enough exercise for me for today. Okay, here's how we stand on the foundation. I've stacked rocks. This front half, 2 between each skid. I got rocks in this little gap here, and some down over here. This is all filled in. This whole side's filled in nice there too. And double checked my level there everywhere, looking good, making sure I didn't bump anything, eh? And yeah, looking pretty good. You know, it's not perfect. You can add a few more rocks, or find some bigger rocks instead of stacking 2 here in a couple places. But I tell you what, boys and girls, I am done with rocks for today. It's way too hot of a day to be doing this, you know. This will last a long time. Okay, so now it's time for insulation. This is R12 insulation. It's for 2x4 studs, and it's 15 inches wide and running 16 inches on center on our studs. There's a 14.5-inch gap in between the studs, so this fits in there perfectly. So we just put her in, make sure it's nice and snug to the corner. And with this structure, 2 slices fits perfectly. Don't even have to do any cutting. Now, this is a very simple process. One of the big things though is insulation. It's at its best when it's nice and puffy like this. If you have to scrunch it up any to squeeze it into spaces that it's too big for without cutting any, you lose a lot of your it loses a lot of its insulating ability, eh? So this will go right nice and quick. and this is R12. There's different types of insulation for different areas of the world and different purposes depending on the climate and whatnot, all that different stuff. I don't know a whole lot about it, but if you go to your local hardware store, they'll set you up with the right stuff if you tell them what you got. And right like such, it's a fun process, this here insulation. I enjoy it, especially after hauling all them rocks. Oh shit. Now another thing is, one of these rolls, one of these bundles costs okay, so one of these bundles covers 100 square foot, hey? One of these bags of insulation here. So this is a 96 square foot floor here, so it should work out and cover it all. If we need a little more, I got a little more at the cabin there. So stay tuned, we'll show you what we do at the smaller stud spaces and whatnot. Okay, so on these first studs on the outside, you can see it's a little too wide, and we really have to scrunch it up if we want it to fit, which we don't want to do. So what you gotta do is cut it, and you see I'm just using my skin knife here. Reason for that is I just broke my X-Acto knife, but X-Acto knife or scissors work. This might be a little difficult because this knife isn't all that sharp. Just trim it up a bit here. We'll save this and I'll show you why later. You can just kind of eyeball it, eh? You see, that wasn't quite perfect, but it's quite a bit better now, taking about that inch off, eh? I'll do the same for the other side. Okay, so I'm insulating this chicken coop because, like I mentioned earlier, we're up north here. It gets pretty damn cold in the winter time, but it's not a bad idea even for you guys in the south that don't see like winter-like climates and you got hotter climates there. It helps keep your chickens cool there in the summertime and help them feel healthy and good there and keep laying at max capacity there. Okay, you see we have this crack here that's going to be underneath where the wall goes, so it's really not that important, but I have these nice long strips that I just cut off this one that are going to be exactly that are going to fit exactly perfect. So I'm going to jam them in there and I'm going to show you how I do it here. So like I said, like this is otherwise just going into the garbage pile, so I'm just taking I'm taking a long spike here and I'm using the head side and I'm just pushing her down in there. And seal that up nice. And do that for all the same corners. Now these are the exact same size as the big pieces there, so they're gonna fit exactly perfect and we're gonna be left with no scrap for this entire insulation job. We'll show you how it looks in a sec. Okay, looking pretty darn good here. And that took all of 15 minutes to do there. Yeah, looking pretty darn nice. Okay, now we're gonna install vapor barrier plastic. Okay, just tacking in a sheet of vapor barrier here. Gonna tack in both sides. Out of all the things I hate doing, vapor burying is up there. It's simple enough, it just always seems to kind of be a pain in the ass, eh? So we'll just tack it in. These are slab staples. You can tack it in with nails or whatever else you want to do. Yeah, I have all I have left of my last roll of vapor barrier is some funny cut pieces, so it's gonna be a little patchy, but we'll see what we can do and we'll show you the steps along the way. Okay, I don't know how well you can see, but her first sheet of vapor barrier is on. I just tack it along the outsides. They're big sheets. I forget what length they usually are, but this is some weird stuff here, man. I've stapled all the edges in, and you don't have to staple along the center studs or anything unless you really want to. Those are likely going to leak anyway, your slab staples, a little bit, and you know, it's not going anywhere. All your plywood nails are gonna hold that plastic in anyway. I do not know what in God's name happened here with this cut. I don't even know if this is picking up, but I'm gonna have to put another piece here. I thought these were usually like 10 wide or something. I don't know. I don't do a whole lot of it. Haven't in a while, I forget what the width these sheets usually come in, but all I got is that bit of scrap there left. Like, I have no idea what's going on here, man. I apologize for that. It's a little sloppy here, but we'll get the seal we need. We'll get it sealed up right proper, but it doesn't look too pretty right now. Okay, we're looking all shiny here now. All the plastic's on. Didn't take long at all. Where I overlapped two pieces, I overlapped this piece about a foot onto the previous, just to get a real nice good seal. Okay, sorry I didn't show you much more of that. It's a little sloppy here, having to use two pieces instead of just one. I'm not too proud of that, but I'm just using what I got. I'm not gonna go buy another roll for a while here, because one, I can't, two, it's a long drive. Anyway, now we're gonna seal up the outside, the perimeter, with acoustical caulking, and then we got also seal up the overlap here, so we'll show you how we do that next. Okay, we're just working on our sealing up the outside. We use this is acoustical sealant here to seal up the outsides and the overlaps of the vapor barrier. This is gross as shit to work with, man. I'm being honest with you. I forgot my caulking gun at home too, so I kind of just got her. I got the hammer here on my belly and I'm pushing her through. It's working, but it's kind of a pain. So you lay a nice bead right along the edge there, right to your staples and whatnot here, right on the edge. You get that nice bead down on the outside of your vapor barrier. You kind of just push it along. Push it your vapor barrier up against the sealant there, and it seals up real nice. God damn, I can't talk properly today. But see, we sealed up all that outside there. Now a little messy here. Can't get an even bead here with the hammer pushing her out, but we're getting there anyway. I'm excited to be done vapor burying. Okay, so I got the entire perimeter sealed up, and then I sealed the overlap over here where the two pieces met there, to ensure a good seal there too. Between using scrap pieces of vapor barrier and not having my caulking gun, she's not very eye appealing, but I can assure you that we got a good seal here. Good old tuck tape there, buddy guy. This sealed up just minty. Just perfect. Oh, shit. Okay, now it's time to install plywood for the floor. Now this is we're going to be following the exact same strategy we did with the OSB on the bottom side of the floor. This time we're using 5/8 standard plywood. So the standard plywood there, it's quite a bit stronger and is more suitable for a floor surface than OSB. Now, the reason I'm using 5/8, I use it for basically all my plywood floors, is because it's plenty thick enough, it's good and strong, and there's quite a big price gap between 5/8 and 3/4 inch plywood, I find anyway, so I stick with the 5/8 and it works pretty damn good. So just nail her in here. Keep working our way down and along the studs. Okay, there you go. All our standard plywood is on now. You can just hear how sturdy everything is. The dog's checking it out here too. Good and sturdy. Gotta love it. You can see I have two different varieties of OSB here. That's okay. Now we're just we'll clean it up a bit here, clean some debris off the surface, and then shoot her with a shot of stain there. Stay tuned. Okay, so now I'm just putting on a quick and rough coat of stain here onto the plywood floor, and the reason for this is because anyone that's ever had chickens knows as soon as you put chickens in here, this floor is never going to see the light of day again. But putting a stain on here, a quick coat of stain, can really help prolong the life of our plywood floor here. So that's why I'm doing it, and it's some leftover stuff I got here from the cabin build, and I'm not at all worried about evenness or any fancy shit like that, because as soon as you put chickens in here, you will never see this floor again. And so yeah, just putting on a quick and dirty coat here. I might put another coat later on. You're supposed to let it dry for 8 hours. Might put another coat later on, but this will be it for today. Well, here you have it, boys and girls. Here is the finished product of our floor foundation build for the chicken coop. It's looking pretty darn good, all right. You can see the stain is dried a little bit here. It's been about 10 minutes since that all's been done there. See my rocks up front, holding up the structure. On the side here. Yeah, looking pretty darn good if I do say so myself. I'm not at all worried about, you see these are two different types of plywood, so they're a completely different color. They take the stain differently. Not at all worried, because like I said, as soon as you let chickens in there, it'll never see the light of day again. We're looking pretty darn good here, boys and girls. I might add a few more rocks when I get a chance, but like, it's sturdy. It looks funny me stacking rocks like that, but it's pretty darn sturdy. It's too bad I didn't find a little level or ground. This is just such a nice place to have it, with being close like this right to the cabin where I can hear and see them all right there. And then there's few places where we got a nice clearing to graze them out front here. We're gonna have two windows here, and then a little chicken entry out the front, and they'll come out that way. And then on the side we'll have a door to get into the chicken coop there. Put the roosts in the back there, and then there'll be a dropping pit, feeders up the center likely, and then laying boxes there, nest boxes there, whatever, and all that stuff. So anyways, guys, thanks again for watching another episode of Trap Lines and Inlines. In the next episode of this series, we'll be framing and installing all the walls for this chicken coop here, so that'll be an exciting one. I'm going to try and go into pretty good detail on that one too. If you want to help support the channel for more and better quality videos there and future content, and kind of help contribute there to the off-grid homestead build here, then there's the Trap Lines and Inlines merchandise. Please feel free to check that out there. And also, I'd love to have you on the Facebook page there for some exclusive updates and extra content there. And you can also send me a message on there and chat with me if you want there. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Until the next time.